Her adopted son kicked her out. Unaware, she was hiding $9.5 million. And see what happens next when they realize. Margaret Dorsey never asked for much in life. She grew up during hard times, where every penny counted and every loaf of bread was stretched to last a week. Raised in foster care herself, she knew how it felt to be unwanted, forgotten, invisible. But she made herself a promise. If she ever made something of herself, she'd never let another child go through what she did. And she kept that promise. When she turned 32, she adopted a little boy named Travis. He was only 6, abandoned at birth, shuttled between homes, and withdrawn into himself. Margaret gave him love, food, safety, everything he never had before. She never once reminded him that she wasn't his real mom, because to her, there was nothing more real than the bond they had. But time changes people. And sometimes love is forgotten. Margaret worked her fingers to the bone to give Travis a life better than hers. He went to private schools, had new shoes every year, birthday cakes with candles and wishes. He never knew that Margaret was clipping coupons and eating canned soup so he could wear Nike sneakers. By the time Travis was 30, he was making 6 figures, working in corporate real estate, driving a BMW, and living in the very house Margaret signed over to him when she fell ill. She thought she was giving him security. Instead, she gave him the weapon he would use to discard her. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. Travis walked into the living room with a cold look in his eyes. The same eyes she once kissed goodnight. "Mom," he said, not looking her in the eyes, "I think it's time you found somewhere else to stay. The house is in my name. I'm starting my life now. You understand?" Margaret didn't understand. Not at first. But when he packed her suitcase without asking and left it by the door, she didn't fight. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at him and whispered, "Okay?" With only her purse, an old suitcase, and her dignity, Margaret left the home she built. She could have said something. She could have revealed everything. The truth about the $9.5 million she'd saved over the years, piece by piece, through wise investments, inheritance bonds, and quiet property dealings in the South. But she didn't, because Margaret wasn't just a mother. She was a woman who knew patience and the power of silence. That night, she checked into a modest motel, the kind with flickering lights and a vending machine that ate your change. She sat alone, staring at the stained wallpaper. The son she raised had thrown her out like garbage. But here's the thing. He thought she had nothing. He had no idea what she was sitting on. Margaret had been investing quietly for decades. She owned 4 properties, 2 rental complexes, a gas station lot, and even a small tech company's early stock that skyrocketed after merger. She never told Travis. He never asked, because Travis thought he was smarter than her. He wasn't. 15 years earlier, Margaret reconnected with an old friend, Roy, a humble man, retired Navy, turned financial advisor. He helped her build a quiet fortune when she planned to leave to Travis. But now, she was rewriting her will. And Travis's name was no longer on it. A week after being kicked out, Margaret sat with her attorney. "I want to leave it all to someone who deserves it," she said. "Not someone who forgets what love is when money enters the room." Narrator, Travis never even checked on her. Not once. He thought she crawled to a shelter, disappeared into the system like she never existed. But Margaret wasn't broken. She was preparing her final move. And soon, Travis would be the one left out in the cold. Margaret didn't waste time mourning. Her heart was heavy, but her mind was sharp. She moved like a woman with purpose, visiting banks, speaking to attorneys, checking on her rental properties, and finalizing the sale of one of her shares in a now booming clean energy startup. The balance in her account? Over $9.5 million. Clean, legitimate, untouched. She'd earned every penny from years of sacrifice. And she wasn't done yet. She rented a small apartment on the other side of town. No one knew her there. That's how she liked it. Peace, quiet, and no Travis asking for money. Meanwhile, Travis was living the high life, drinking $100 cocktails, laughing with friends, bragging about how his old lady finally moved out, and now the house was his. Woman didn't know how to manage anything anyway, he told them. I gave her a good life. She should have thanked me. He didn't know that just days before, his name had been erased from every financial document Margaret ever had. No more inheritance. No more real estate control. No more access to her accounts. She was done playing mother to a man who only saw her as an obstacle. Margaret remembered it all. The night she stayed up sewing clothes for Travis. The meals she skipped so he could eat. The college tuition she paid in full from a second job at night. The car she bought him with money meant for her hip surgery. The time he forgot her birthday, but she still made him a cake on his. She gave and gave and gave, and he took and took and took. Margaret found peace in new places. She started volunteering at a hospital near her apartment, helping elderly patients fill out forms, bringing them warm soup, and giving them a kind smile. Everyone loved Miss Margaret. She was soft-spoken, but strong, quiet, but wise. And when people told her she was special, she'd just smile and say, just try to be useful. No one knew she had a bank account bigger than most surgeons working there. 6 months passed. The good times started to run dry for Travis. His flashy job? Gone after his company downsized. His car? Repossessed. His so-called friends? Nowhere to be found. The house? Falling apart from unpaid repairs. He called Margaret's old number. Disconnected. He drove to her old church. They said she no longer attended. He asked around town. No one had seen her. She was gone. Travis sat alone in the house that once held warmth, life, and love. The curtains were still hers. The photo albums still on the shelves. But the woman who made it all feel like home? Gone. He walked into her old room. For the first time, he sat on the edge of her bed and cried. But it wasn't just sadness. It was guilt and fear. Because for the first time in his life, he realized something. He didn't know the woman who raised him at all. While Travis fell apart, Margaret was rising. Her days were filled with kindness. She anonymously donated thousands to patients in need. She funded scholarship programs for foster kids. She paid off medical bills for strangers. But she never boasted. She just signed the checks and kept walking. Her past no longer defined her. Her son no longer controlled her. She was free. And with her $9.5 million, she planned to make sure others would never be trapped by the people they loved most. One morning, Travis opened his door to find an envelope, a formal letter, from a law firm. Inside was a single line written by hand at the bottom. You kicked me out of a house I built. I left you the walls. I took the roof. Margaret Dorsey. Travis read the line over and over. You kicked me out of a house I built. I left you the walls. I took the roof. At first, he thought it was a joke, some metaphorical jab from a bitter old woman. But a follow-up page left no room for confusion. Attached was a legal notice informing him that his name had been removed from the Dorsey family trust. He wasn't just disinherited. He'd been erased. Scene, Travis visiting a lawyer. Narrator, panicked. Travis made an appointment with a lawyer. He was hoping it was all a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. The attorney looked him in the eye and confirmed it. Your mother legally removed you from all her assets, effective month ago. You're no longer entitled to anything in her estate. He left that office with a weight he'd never known before. The weight of consequences. The weight of a man who'd bitten the hand that fed him, and now had to learn how to feed himself. Margaret had always been smart with money. She kept records, tracked expenses, made quiet investments in things no one paid attention to. While other people wasted time chasing fast cash, she built slow, solid wealth. She knew how to stretch a dollar. But most of all, she knew how to protect herself. She wasn't petty. She wasn't trying to get revenge. She was making peace. Peace with the truth that not every child raised in love grows up to return it. With her wealth, Margaret funded a scholarship for adopted children. She didn't want others to feel the loneliness Travis left her with. At the university gala, she wore a simple gray dress. No diamonds, no flash. But when she stepped onto that stage and handed over scholarship awards to 6 students, her name was met with standing ovation. Miss Margaret One student said, voice trembling, "You've changed my life." And for the first time in years, Margaret felt something lift from her shoulders. She smiled, not because she was rich, but because she finally felt seen. Meanwhile, Travis had started looking for his mother. Not for money, not anymore, but because deep down, guilt was eating him alive. He drove to every corner of the city, checked shelters, churches, even hospitals, left notes at diners, asked old neighbors. But Margaret, she was a ghost now, not hiding, just living far away from his shadows. Scene: Travis looking at an old photo album. Narrator: one evening, Travis opened a dusty box in the attic. Inside were photos, faded and curled at the edges. There was Margaret, holding his hand at a science fair. Margaret laughing on a camping trip with dirt on her face. Margaret waiting outside his college graduation, holding a sign that said, "You did it, baby." Tears filled his eyes. For the first time, he realized how much he had given, how much he had thrown away, and how poor he truly was. Margaret never stopped giving. She began speaking to young women at shelters, teaching them how to open accounts, how to invest, how to protect their assets, even from family. "Love should never make you poor," she said gently. "And being alone doesn't mean you're worthless." She didn't talk about Travis, but in every lesson, every piece of advice, there was a trace of him, of what not to do, who not to trust, and why loving yourself had to come first. Then one day, a letter arrived. No return address, just her name. She opened it slowly. Inside was a card. "Mom, I'm sorry." That was all it said. No begging, no excuses, no asking for money. Just 3 words he should have said years ago. She stared at it, then folded it quietly, placed it in her drawer, and walked away. Scene: narrator voiceover with a montage of Margaret watching sunset, volunteering, attending community events, writing in her journal. Narrator: Margaret never replied. She didn't need to. Some wounds don't need closure. They just need time. She lived the rest of her days surrounded by strangers who became family, children who hugged her, elders who respected her, and communities that flourished under her generosity. And though she once raised a boy who forgot her, she became a mother to 100 souls who never would. They say money changes people, but sometimes it just reveals who they always were. And when Margaret Dorsey died peacefully in her sleep at 78, she left behind a legacy far greater than $9.5 million. She left behind dignity, strength, and a lesson this world won't soon forget. Like my video and subscribe my channel for more daily videos. No Justice Nation.